Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the show and welcome to episode 4 of our Audible series tutorial. I hope you guys have been having fun with the transition from Xcode 7 to Xcode 8 and also Swift 2.3 to Swift 3.0. I know certainly it's been quite difficult for me for a lot of my various projects, this whole migration process. But anyways, enough about me. Let's go ahead and get right into what today's video is going to be all about. Now, on my screen, we have the simulator launch with the current project from the last episode, and we have our collection view that is able to page from one cell to the next. Very easy. And last episode, we went through how to migrate from Swift 2.3 to Swift 3.0 using Xcode 8. Hopefully you guys will be able to watch that. If you guys haven't, should be in the description below. So moving on, I want to show you guys how to actually modify the little page controller or page control on the bottom, which are these 3 dots down below. And every time we swipe over to the next page, we basically want to advance the dot to the right, and swiping back will advance or will bring the dot back to the left. So in other words, I am going to implement this functionality here, which allows the dot to move from one dot to the next, obviously. And then we'll talk about how to animate things off the screen if we have the time to do so today. So let's go ahead and move this similar up here. Let's see, let's get it to the corner. And our application currently loads and runs pretty smoothly. Nothing too difficult yet. And hopefully nothing too difficult today in today's video. And the first thing I want to do before actually controlling the dots down below is to actually introduce the very last cell in our walkthrough. I guess I'll call this a walkthrough, our guide here. And this last cell is this login cell, right? And the reason why I want to introduce it is just to make an extra dot on the very bottom. So if we go to View Controller, which is up here, the first thing you have to do is to, let me just hit Control 6, go to number of items in section here, and you just have to bump up this return value from pages.count to an extra 1 like that. And if you run this app now, you're gonna notice that it'll crash as you move to the last page. And I'll show you guys how to fix that in just one moment. So go over there, and then it kind of crashes when it tries to load either the 3rd page or the 4th page. And the reason is because pages is only 3 items in this array, and we're trying to access the 4th item, which is an out of bounds exception. And that's what the little error on the bottom tells us. So let's fix this by doing a couple of things here. So the first thing to actually do is, so let me see if I can build this project here, go back here, and my syntax highlighting is back. So if you just remove the, let's see, I want that guy, and remove the file explorer, here inside of this registration process, I'm going to register just a blank cell for the last page. And to make things easier, I'll just say, let's register cells down here, and I'll cut that out, and I'm going to say file private func and register cells, and this new method will be my registration function here. And the next thing I will want to do is register this last page, and this cell will just be a plain old UI collection view cell dot self right here, and the ID will be login cell ID. So we're not going to create this cell, probably not in this video, but I'm just going to create the kind of the skeleton for it right now. So login cell ID equals login cell ID, just like that. And now that we have this cell registered in our collection view, we can go to this method right here, cell for item at index path. And at the very top, it's kind of important to do this at the top of the method. And what you want to do is say if index path dot, let's see, index path dot item equals pages dot count. So when pages dot count is 3, that means we're on the last page. So you might be tempted to do plus 1 here, but I think that all you need is pages.count. So here we go. We will say let login cell equals collection view DQ, and we'll use this login cell ID for the identifier and index path from the actual method call, and we'll just return login cell. So this is how you would avoid the crash and also return the login cell for the last page. And if we scroll here, here, and here, you notice that the last page is just this empty blank UI collection view cell, which is our login cell. So that's how that works. And you'll notice the first problem right now is the very bottom, the page control needs to have an additional dot to represent 4 pages. And we will fix this by going to number of pages here. And we should do the proper fix. And if we just return 4, I guess that's kind of okay. But to fix it, a more correct way is to use the actual pages. So self.pages.count plus 1. This will give us 3 pages plus 1, which is 4, and we'll have 4 pages. And the issue right here is self is not accessible until you specify lazy var for the page control. And lazy var just means that self is accessible from within this closure block here. Don't worry too much about it. That's just how it works. So now I have 4 pages and I have 4 dots. So this is a pretty good starting point for me to show you guys how to actually change the dot down here, the indicator dot, to match the exact page that you are on inside of this walkthrough component as you're advancing from page to page. And this is a little tricky if you don't know how to do it. So let's go into what the code looks like. And the first thing you have to do is to override a method called, let's see, scrollViewEndDragging. And you can either do did_endDragging or will_endDragging. I find that will_endDragging will provide better feedback for whenever the dot needs to change to the next one. And here is the secret sauce here. So target content offset, this is the parameter that represents where in the collection view that it'll stop. And to make sense of it, you can just say print target content offset, I think it's .t.x. So .t is the new, I believe it's the new Swift 3 syntax. And it basically gives us the memory value for the CG points. So might be a little too much to explain for this video, but essentially the printing value is down here in the console, and you see it basically just prints out the X value of the collection view whenever it needs to stop. And we use this X value to figure out which page number we are on. And if you just say let page number equals target content offset .c.x divided by view.frame.width, this will give us exactly what page number we are on. So printing out the page number now, you'll see it advance from either 0, 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3. So let's see 1 down there, 2, 3, and 3, 2, 1 as you slide back to the very first page of the collection view. So that's how the page number works. And if we go here and say page control dot current page equals page number, we should be okay with whatever the dot needs to be. And the problem here is you need to convert this page number value to an integer, because current page is just a plain old digit or a plain old integer represented by an int. So if you scroll here, you'll notice that the dots in the middle there, if I can get a bigger view, just changes as you scroll the collection view. Now you can disable the scroll bar as well, but I'm just going to keep it here to make things a little bit more obvious as to where the collection view is scrolling towards. So that's how you control the dots, and that's pretty good. The next thing I want to show you guys, let me just bring this similar back, is to actually animate these items off the screen. In other words, I want to explain how to scroll left and right, and as soon as you get to this last page here and you let go, the items need to animate off the screen and the buttons on the top animate up, and the page control animates down. And that's pretty nice animation. And today we're going to go through how to do this using the anchoring constraints that we use to place these three components in the first place. So let's go back up to view to load here. And to animate constraints, you need to call this method called layout if needed. And I'll show you guys exactly how to do that. So to make this easier to follow, I want to actually animate off the screen this page control on the bottom here. So just like that, you see how it kind of animates down. And right now, it currently stays in place. So how do we make it animate downwards inside of the scrolling behavior? The trick is to actually just have a reference to the actual bottom anchor. And I'm going to create this reference here called page control bottom anchor, and let it be of type layout constraint, optional like that. And the trick is, how do we know what the bottom anchor is? So I didn't explain exactly how this anchoring method works in the last video, but here is the trick. So I'm going to say page, let's see, where am I here? Page control bottom anchor equals this whole thing, and I'm going to, at the very end, specify a index of 1. So what does this do? Well, I think you actually need a question mark there. And let me just fix this actually. So I'm going to command click on that the anchor code, and I'm going to remove this optional. So that was my mistake for including that optional there, and I'm going to remove that question mark. So all you need to do is just remove that question mark, and you can specify a bracket of 1, and this basically accesses the first anchor that is returned from this whole anchor call. And the first anchor is not this left anchor, but this bottom anchor right here. And what this will do is, let's see, that'll give us the page control bottom anchor as the correct anchor from our little convenience method there. And so now that we have page control bottom anchor set up properly, we can animate it off the screen like this. So go back to scrollViewWillEndDragging, and I'm going to do this. If page number equals pages.count, and this is the scenario where we are on the last page. So every time we're dragging, once we reach this, we want to animate off. So I'm going to say animate. Let's see, I think this needs to be a string. Animate controls off screen. I'm going to run this and verify that this print statement is being printed out every time I transition to the last page. So going there, and you see it says animate controls off screen, and comes up again as soon as I bring the collection view to the last page. So what is it that we actually need to do inside of scrollViewWillEndDragging here? We need to simply say page control bottom anchor.constant equals a value of, let's say, -40 perhaps, and then we'll call UIView animate with, let's just use this guy right here, a duration of 0.5 seconds, delay of 0, options is curve, ease out, or any other option you want to choose. Animations will be something that I'll type right now, and we'll say self.view layout if needed. So this is the method that I was mentioning earlier that you need to call. You need to call this in order to animate a constraint change with one of your components. So as I scroll from left to right, you're going to see at the very end, the control will actually animate up like that. So the issue with this is that the -40 brings it up. So if you use a value of 40, it'll just bring it down. And the way to actually kind of tell whether or not it goes up or down is a little more nuanced or detailed than I would like to explain right now. But anyways, that's how that will work. So remember, every time you change the constant of an anchor, you just have to animate it with a self.view.layout if needed inside of your animation block like that. And that's how that works. So how do I bring it back into the screen as I am scrolling back to the regular walkthrough pages like that? So it needs to actually come back. And the trick is, let's go back to our app here. The trick is inside of this if case, if we just provide an else down here, we can get rid of this print statement here. And I am going to say page control bottom anchor constant equals 0. So this is going to equal 0, and I'm going to cut all of this animation code and just paste it down here to make sure it animates for both cases of when we are on the last page and then when we are not on the last page. So that's how that will work. And if I scroll here and bring it back, it kind of just brings it to the little area down here. And that looks pretty good, or at least I think it is. And so to finish off this animation step, we need to animate off screen the skip and the next button that are at the very top. And here's how I would do it. So let's go to this viewDidLoad method again. And right above, I'm going to create those two references called skip button. And I am going to say top anchor of NS layout constraint. And this will be next button, top anchor NS layout constraint optional. And here's what I will do. I'm going to say skip button top anchor is this whole thing dot first. And so the first method actually just returns the first value out of the returned anchor array. So remember, anchor returns an array of anchors, and the first anchor is the top anchor. And likewise for the next button, top anchor, we'll call first again on the entire returned array of anchors. And that's how that works. Make sure to actually, let's see, go into this anchor method here. So I'm just going to command click in here, goes to the extension file, and you can look at what the anchors are doing. Basically, it anchors all your views, and then it just returns the anchors inside of the array. So go have a look at that if you are not fully convinced. And when you are convinced, go back to your viewDidLoad function here. And now that we have all of our anchors set up, let's go ahead and go back to scrollViewWillEndDragging. And finally, we will modify the, let's see, skip button. Whenever we are on the last page, we need to change the top anchor of the skip button. So skip button top anchor. We'll change the constant to, let's say, -40 equals -40. And we'll say next button top anchor dot constant equals -40 as well. So I just want to run this and make sure the constants are behaving properly here. So let's go here, here, and last one. So it kind of animates off. And now we need to just bring the buttons back into view as we scroll back. So the trick here is that you need to notice that the top anchor has a constant of 16 for these skip and next buttons. So inside of this this area here, when we are back on regular pages, we'll say skip button top anchor dot constant equals 16. And likewise for the next button anchor, we need to specify it to be 16 pixels from the top. And with those two lines, let's see what happens as we scroll there and then we scroll back. You'll notice that the animation is pretty clean. One thing that I would change is the actual animation here. So you'll notice that it's kind of slow, the animation, and it's a little slow for my taste. And the actual animation I would like is this snappier one where it kind of decelerates quickly with a much sharper acceleration. And to do that, you want to go back to scrollViewWillEndDragging, and I'll use UI animate. We'll use this spring with damping method, and we'll use 0.5, let's see, 0, 1, 1, curve out. So curve these out, animations, and we'll just cut this guy here, paste it in there. and use nil for the completion block. Finally, get rid of the old animation style. And you'll notice that this type of animation is a lot easier on the eye, and it's not as slow, obviously, and it just looks a lot cleaner. And I think this is what a lot of the native animations in iOS actually looks like. Okay, finished with yet another video in our Audible series. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want similar videos like this in the future. Also, do not forget that the link for today's project is available in the description below, so make sure to check it out if you want to download the project and play around with the code and make sure it runs. Finally, in the next episode, we'll talk about how to actually draw out the login cell so that it looks nice, contains an email field, password field, login button, and the actual Audible logo. And then perhaps we'll talk about how to handle the rotation of the device. All right, that is it for me. Keep on coding, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.